This is chapter 2 of this book right here, Hacking Kubernetes, Threat-Driven Analysis and Defense. There's an article for chapter 2 that I did notes on, so that's where the meat is going to be. This is just a rant / discussion about chapter 2. So chapter 2 is pod level resources. It goes into attacking and defending, mainly defending pods in Kubernetes. If you don't know what a pod is, I'll give a quick explanation here, although without a diagram, it's not going to be very useful. A pod is the atomic unit of computation in Kubernetes. So it has its own IP, and it has multiple containers inside of it, one or more containers. Usually just like a container holding an app, and then maybe another container doing something like maybe being a proxy for that app. And each container represents like a service on the pod's IP. So, maybe a web server on port 8080 and some security service on port 1337. Yeah. Defending pods. So Kubernetes gives you a lot of options for defending pods. That's really clear. It gives you security contexts, app armor, seccomp profiles, la-di-da-di-da. The chapter goes really deep into each thing that you can do to protect your pod. You can protect it really well. You can have it really locked down. What the chapter doesn't talk about is the cost for dev. So I was a developer for a few years. That's mainly the background I come from. And I understand that, security is kind of like wearing a bulletproof vest. It's heavy. You don't want to wear it all day. It makes you slower. It makes you less agile. And it protects you from bullets sometimes, but, you can still get shot in the leg or above your chest for me, that metaphor pretty much does it. Even I was scrolling, looking at, something related to Kubernetes security, and I came across a forum. It was a dev saying, why after I specified this in the security context, can I not exec into my container? So it's like, okay, dev implements security blocks them from doing just day-to-day things. That's not good for speedy development. So what I'm saying is Kubernetes gives you 101 ways to lock down your pod. Are you going to use them? I don't know. Realistically in an organization, I don't know. I've worked in 2 companies that had Kubernetes clusters. They had Kubernetes products, I guess you could say. Microservice architecture, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't have any security personnel, and I didn't know anything about security at the time. So I can't speak to the security of our clusters. I can only say that, DevOps owned security. And who was policing them? Nobody, Usually it's just 1 or 2 guys that understand security, and it's kind of up to them to make sure that it doesn't get in anyone's way, because that's when people really notice security implementations, is when it's blocking them from doing their job, not necessarily when they get hacked, because you don't always know when you get hacked. Sometimes it's something loud, like at my last company, there was an API key leak somehow, and someone started up a really expensive cluster, spent like $50,000 in computing resources on GCP, and that all went to someone's crypto wallet. They were crypto mining for like 24 hours, but they ran up quite a bill. That's a case where you're going to notice that you're getting hacked. Other times, not so much. So I guess sympathy for developers, and I'm curious to see, I guess, the balance between securing a Kubernetes cluster and, um, making sure that devs can still do their job without feeling too hindered. Some security things require maintenance, like, for example, seccomp profiles. Like, if you have just a default profile, I believe, and I'm sorry, I have to talk really high level about this because I have not actually implemented it. I've just read about it. But you can specify like really granular things like, oh, this permission is allowed, this isn't, to the point where maybe you have it fit perfectly for an application. But what about when the behavior of that application changes? Then you have to change the seccomp profile, and all of a sudden you're creating like extra work associated with changing something in your code. So a change here requires a change here. We call that a rigid code base, which is generally something that people want to avoid. So yeah, there's costs and benefits. This is all to say that, in conclusion, a Kubernetes cluster can be perfectly secure, but I don't think that in a practical sense there are many organizations putting security above everything else in their Kubernetes clusters. Yeah. Those are just my thoughts. Yeah, from an attacker perspective, I think it's really interesting too. But yeah, we will see. Anyways, tell me what you think, I'm really curious, Does this sound like something you've thought of before? Does it sound totally ridiculous? Maybe offer some perspective. How does your organization handle securing the cluster and pleasing the devs? Yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. All right, until next chapter, stay sharp. Have a good one. Have a good week. Have a good year.